Hey guys, Scott here, and today I wanted to talk about a little bit of an experiment I kind of retroactively did by looking at past videos. I wanted to just kind of compare how strong the Gen Kick meta is compared to perks that slow down the game that are not Gen Kick perks. Basically, we're comparing like Call of Brine Eruption Overcharge to things like Deadlock, Jolt, Pain Resonance. And so what I did was check the past 2 weeks of my VODs on Twitch, where I've been using Call of Brine Eruption. I've been using that since, honestly, they buffed Eruption for a pretty long time. Those are my two slowdown perks. I'm running on basically every killer and playing in a very consistent way, so it's somewhat good data. I typically play like, Wraith or Wesker or Bubba, or, I have a selection of like 5 or 6 killers I typically rotate. So I compared that with the past week of me not using any gen kick perks, not kicking gens really at all. Now it's only 1 week compared to the past 2 weeks. So what I'm going to do is compare the results by multiplying the past week by 2 to extrapolate it for, 2 weeks. It's not super scientific. Like I said, I didn't go into this trying to make a study. I just decided to go back and check and compare. But it does have a pretty good indication. So in the past 2 weeks, just using Call of Brine Eruption, using the whole gen kick meta, I had 2 escapes the entire time. And that was for the entire 2 week period. Or I had 2 games in which people escaped. I'm not counting Hatch, by the way. I mean, like, they did all the gens and they actually got out the gate. So there were 2 games in 2 weeks. Now, the past week of me using the no gen kick perks, I had 4 escapes. And if we multiply that by 2 to extrapolate it to 2 weeks, that's basically 8. So we had 2 escapes in 2 weeks with using the whole gen kick meta and 8 escapes without using it. And like I said, not a super scientific study. There's variables and stuff like that. But it does have a pretty strong correlation with the gen kick meta being significantly stronger than the non-gen kick perks. And I think that's pretty telling because, yeah, I do feel it. If anything, even if you think this data is somewhat inaccurate, which, I mean, let's be fair, it's not super well controlled. The most important part, I think, is as an experienced player, my feeling using the perks and how it differs. Using Call of Brine Eruption, I felt pretty damn safe almost every game. Very, very low stress. It was just basically free wins over and over again. Using no gen kick perks, once the gens start getting done, it does become harder and more stressful because if you have a 3-gen setup and you have Call of Brine Eruption, you're not losing that game. Like you can drag out that game forever. But if you have things like Pain Resonance and Jolt and stuff like that, that requires you to actively go out and down people. And if you're in a bad section of a map with your 3-gen or something like that, it becomes a lot harder and a lot more stressful. And that's where the difference in wins was, in my opinion. When you get down to that 3-gen setup, the gen kick meta is infinitely stronger than any other perk setup you can have. And that's probably why people find it so frustrating. That's why people absolutely hate Eruption, because they can make games go on forever and ever and ever. Whereas if you have the other perks, like I said, Jolt and Pain Resonance and stuff like that, the killer's got to chase people or his perks don't do anything. So I do believe that's healthier for the game because, frankly, I shouldn't be losing 2 games in 2 weeks with a matchmaking system that works. That's ridiculous. Doesn't matter how good I am. I shouldn't only be losing twice. That is stupid. This is a very hard pill for a lot of people to swallow, but you shouldn't be winning more than like 60% of your games if the matchmaking works. You just shouldn't be. That's how it's supposed to work to begin with. But people feel like if they lose 1 game in 10 matches, they're like, the game's imbalanced. I don't know why this community is so bad about that particular mindset, but people are just, they don't understand. You're supposed to lose pretty frequently, actually. So yeah, the whole point of comparison was, yes, undoubtedly, at least in my opinion, the gen kick meta is infinitely stronger because of that whole area denial and drawing the game out feature that they have. Now, one thing to note is I didn't time this, but the games that I did not have gen kick perks, the games ended faster because I would run like Starstruck Agitation or something instead. So my games would actually end a lot faster. Even if I, whether I won or lost, they would end a lot faster. So whether or not that's a good thing, I guess depends on whether or not you're playing Survivor. Typically, Survivors are going to prefer, a nice 10-minute game versus a 40-minute drawn-out Condemned Sadako playstyle. So I guess Survivors would prefer that. But the shorter the game is for Killer, the more stressful it feels. So it's a bit of a trade-off there. I'm not sure really which one's better. I'm going to lean towards Survivor side being better simply because there's 4 people being bored versus 1 people being bored. Just utilitarianism there. I don't know. It seems like the best choice, but that's a pretty interesting point of discussion there. Overall, from this very vague study. The Gen Kick meta does seem infinitely stronger. I do think people's complaints about things like eruption are pretty valid because I felt the difference. I really felt the difference. And as a final note, again, I'm not saying don't run any Gen slowdown. Winning without Gen slowdown sucks. It's really hard. And it's not because the people that you're going against are outplaying you because they're better. If you just get like Red Forest or something and you're a Myers and you have no slowdown, it doesn't matter how good you are. You don't have the time to even get places. And that's where I think having a slowdown perk or two is nice to help, remedy those situations. What's kind of cringe is like running 4 slowdowns every single game. It's to the point where it's not even good. Running 4 slowdowns, in my opinion, is not even strong. You have no information perks, you have no chase perks, you have nothing. Fuck it. If you want to have a super sweaty build, run Call of Brine Eruption Overcharge and then fucking Noed or something. It's like people are so like they have it in their head that you got to run all the slowdowns in the game, not realizing that you would actually end chases faster and have more map control by downing people faster by having information or exposed perks or anything else in that slot. So all you're doing is just making the game longer, more drawn out, and more painful for everybody involved. Fuck it, you could still run 3 slowdowns. Just run some other chase perk or information perk. I guarantee it'll be more effective for you. Other than that, that's the end of the video. Gen Kick meta, undoubtedly stronger than not. That's it.